Hey everybody, it's HBCU Gameday again. Don't click off, stay right there. This is something important. I promise you, I'm not trying to get you to click on something. I'm not trying to get you to buy something, but if you want cross colors, we do have 10% off. All right, no sales here. This is great information and it is aimed for recent graduates. I know you missed out. I know Obama got to come to your living room, so we'll call it a break even. 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. But great information coming your way right now from Tristian Turner. He is part of TLS Talent Agency. He's a longtime friend of mine. Tris, you are the guy I wanted to talk to first because what we're trying to do here is give some advice from old dudes. That's my working title, advice from old dudes.
Got the gray.
You are one of those people, man, that has always had a knack to know the right people, be in the right place, make the connections, and you've turned that into a great life. Now, Tris is one of those guys, you guys might have a friend like this, you can't even explain what he does. He's just involved in so many different things. So, Tris, I really wanted you to be able to talk to the recent graduates because now all the patting on the back is over, all the hoopla is over, they're in the real world. Talk to us about the importance of networking, marketing yourselves, and for the kids who are just gonna take that untraditional path, much like yourself, I'm just gonna give you the floor, man.
Cool, Tyler, I appreciate it, yeah. We have known each other a while, bro. We definitely have, and I'm happy to say that my mom actually patted me on the back one day a few years after graduation. She told me she was slightly concerned, not totally, but slightly concerned. As I matriculated through my college years, she just wondered what path I would take. She actually ended up working at Winston-Salem State my last couple of years there. And so she got to see up close. And, she heard stories and everything about a lot of different things I was involved in, as you know, through parties, worked with a couple of concert promoters and things like that. So worked with you at the radio station. I was just kind of all over the place, as you mentioned. But one thing that I realized, I didn't know that the exact term for it back then, but I was making things happen off of who I knew. And so I'm glad that you brought up networking, because when I was starting to understand that term and understand that, hey, this is what I was doing, I just kept rocking with that. I live by the cliche that your net worth is just as big as your net worth, or vice versa, however you want to put it. That's how I rock. It's been awesome to stay in touch with you and to be connected and working with you after so many years, but that wouldn't have happened if not only did we know each other, but keep that contact even without social media. You know, we were connected here and there before Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff blew up. And that's just the way I played it with a lot of things. I've been fortunate that I haven't burnt many bridges. I can't say I haven't burnt any because you got to learn from mistakes, but been fortunate that I haven't burnt many bridges. And I've been able to double back to people that I worked with 20 years ago, 15 years ago. It, comes full circle with a lot of the things that I do. So it's really cool. Networking is the ultimate thing for me.
And so people will know that people that don't know you personally, for what you can tell us, you work with brands, you do a lot of brand marketing. Just look, name drop segment. give us some of the names and brands that you can that you've been able to work with to give some context to the conversation. Okay.
I've worked with a lot of standard corporate brands such as Verizon. Worked with them and marketing campaigns that they did at NFL games. Xbox is another. Helped launch Xbox Connect, which was really cool because I'm not a gamer at all. So someone like me could embrace a product like that. That was really cool. And then I ended up working with Xbox with NFL stuff. So a lot of things I do kind of intertwine, which is really cool because I work with nightlife, I work with entertainment, I work with brands, and I don't shy away from the fact that I work with a lot of different things. And then I'm able to combine it all. So I work with a lot of those brands, and then a lot of the spirits companies, Hennessy, Ciroc, a lot of the Jim Beam brands, Cavassier, FN, Maker's Mark, things of that nature. And over the past few years, I worked with cannabis a lot too, which I had a big marketing background with tobacco. We went to Winston-Salem State. Winston and Salem's, I was recruited right out of school to work with RJ Reynolds.
Look, that stuff is in the air, man. It
was right there.
It just draws you in.
Right there. So yeah, I worked with RJ Reynolds right out of college with Winston Cup Racing. I actually got to use my degree for a brief time period, which was a sports management degree. And yeah, that, I'm dating myself because it's not Winston Cup Racing anymore. You said the old heads, you want the old head. So yeah, here I am. So yeah, I had that tobacco marketing experience, worked with Backwoods and Dutch Masters, ran their social media for years, started the social media and ran it. I literally started their social media at zero, set up the accounts and blew them up to over 500,000 combined. And that type of work led to the cannabis work. So I worked with some pretty big cannabis companies, a company now called Rapper Weed, which is starting to blow up out of California, a few edibles companies, still with your major streamline brands, do a lot of stuff with Champion. Definitely going to get with you and this cross-color stuff. Rocking my HBCU Gameday tee right now.
There it is.
Yeah. Need cross colors to step up and get the HBCU Gameday cross colors shirts over to us so we can rep. Big fan of repping with the brand that I, work with y'all. So I definitely want to show love. So yeah, I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of different brands over the years. I know I'm leaving out a ton. I actually keep a running list so that I can refer to it when people ask. I'm not looking at it right now. But
well, yeah, I just wanted people to know that you just weren't some dude off the street, like you're out there doing it. So now that we have that context, I think there's a very fine line in college. There are people, kids, from the time I was in school, before then, and obviously since then, you can be involved with the entertainment and the parties and the business side of that, or you can just be a dude that goes to parties all the time and maybe think that you're involved with that. How big is self-awareness if that's the life that you want to be in, and knowing how and when not to cross over that line of, promoter, businessman, or just dude that's always hanging around, or girl that's always hanging around?
Yeah. So, that's a big thing. I was attracted to the entertainment and the nightlife aspects of things early on. But there was a void at one point where the people that were throwing the cool parties at school graduated, and there was no one really doing anything. So my guys and I got together and had the thought to do a party. So I was already working with Diamond Life Promotions, who does a lot of the homecomings in the area. They were doing Winston-Salem State's homecoming at the time. So I was working with them, so I had a pretty good understanding on a few things, and I was fortunate enough to be a well-known person on campus. So kind of used that leverage and started throwing parties. But it really didn't sink in until my folks from Diamond Life pulled me to the side, and they were like, hey, we hear you doing parties, doing some good things. Are you doing XYZ? And I'm like, what? I understood some business aspects of it, but until they pulled my coattail, I'm like, you don't really know what you're doing. That's when the business stuff really clicked in. So it's important to be aware, especially with this day and age of social media, how you can really market yourself. We didn't have that back then. I remember we were printing up flyers, 4 to a sheet, taking them to the cutting room and cutting them up ourselves, and just really putting it out there, riding around in cars, dropping stuff off, flyers off at barbershops and things. But it was just really important to market myself, market what we were doing, working with the concert promotions and market that, just to make sure it all tied in and makes sense. And then to look the part and be the part as well. Like, I just didn't want to get caught slipping at any time, you know what I mean? It wasn't that I needed to have on something fly all the time, but I wanted to look like, hey, I was part of this industry. So look cool, know what was going on, know who the latest artists were, all that stuff. So yeah, it's very important. And the same thing with sports, because I was a sports management major. I always wanted to know what was going on in the sports world. If I grabbed a newspaper, the first thing I did was go to the sports section. The internet wasn't big back then, so it's a newspaper. So just trying to always be aware. Read the Source magazine from cover to cover every month. seeing who got 5 mics, all that stuff. So yeah, just staying in tune with everything that was going on was really important. And even to this day, it's still important.
You know, I always wondered how that Source magazine grew legs at the radio station. It'd be there one day, come in the mail, and, you know, maybe for about, you had like a 3-hour window to read it, and then it would just be gone in the wind.
I would come in a lot of mornings, Tyler. It's funny you bring that up. I would do the sports news most mornings, and I would come in to drop my reel. I had to record it back then. And if I saw that thing sitting there, you know, it'd be crinkled up a little bit. Yeah, I was snagging it. I sure was. It was me sometimes getting it. If I'm fortunate enough.
You and DJ Spunk, yeah.
Yeah, Spunk definitely kept me.
Talking with Tristian Turner, he's with TLS Talent Agency, which represents HBCU Gameday. We're old classmates. We go back to back when we had different types of hair. More and less of it. Tris, you have, it's so easy now to be a star, think you're a star, try to become a star because of all the different platforms. But you've made a living getting behind people, getting behind brands, and pushing them to the forefront. How important is that decision when it's so enticing and intoxicating to try to be the guy or girl out front?
Oh, God. I think it's one of the best decisions I ever made. I initially wanted to be an ESPN host. That was my goal. You know, I used to listen to your cadence when we did games. I'm like, Tyler's got it. You know, and I mimicked things that you were doing. Stu Scott was my guy. You know, some of the ways that I would do reporting was
we were all copying him.
yeah. You know, that was my guy. And I tried to make it as hip but on brand as I could within the realms of what we were working with the campus radio station. And so, yeah, I definitely wanted to go that route. But as I started doing a lot of things with events, I saw up close and personal with celebrities a lot of things that they were going through, and working with them to get things done. It was really cool to see how that merged and whatnot. And being offered the job with RJ Reynolds working with Winston Cup took me in a totally different direction. I mean, the money was great, but the things that I learned so early on took me from wanting to be on the radio or in front of the camera to really pushing things behind the scenes even further. And I look at it now, and I think it was just one of the best decisions I ever made. I hadn't looked back. People like me are needed. We're definitely needed. TLS has been successful because we were needed. That's why we started. We started out of necessity for a few folks 10 years ago. They needed someone like my partner, Cicero, and I to push things for them. And I mean, I really love the life I live now. You know, I tell people all the time, I'm probably the most well-known, least known person you'll ever meet. Oh, they have no idea.
Accurate.
You know, and I think it's real cool to run up backstage and to get a shout out from like a Tory Lanez or Anthony Hamilton or Fantasia or someone is really cool. You know, it's humbling, but it's cool at the same time that other people look around at me like, who is this dude? Like, who is it? You know, I don't have a lot of Instagram followers or anything like that. I don't want it. But I love the perks of the job. You know, the money is cool, but the perks are great. You know, when you get free tickets and a backstage pass to something in almost any city, that's love, man. I mean, you just can't beat it. Can't beat it.
Talking with Tristian Turner from TLS Talent Agency. When you guys started out, who were some of the clients that you first started getting on board that you knew, okay, this is working. This is how we envisioned it.
So our very first client with our agency was Play of Kid and Play. He was in the Raleigh-Durham area teaching at Central. We had done a few projects with him before we started the agency, and he didn't have representation. You know, he has a very good understanding of the business, but he was doing everything himself. And he was one of those people that, okay, we're doing stuff with, we have a good relationship with, It's like, hey, let's do something formal. So we started our agency, literally the first person we signed. And then, of course, came Kid. So we had Kid and Play, and then we just started going from there. And it's been awesome working with those guys. Two totally different personalities, but two people who've been in the game. We've learned a lot from them, as well as been able to do some cool things with them as well. Damon John is another. I can honestly say out of any client I've ever represented, I've learned more from him than anyone. I mean,
that's Shark Tank?
Shark Tank, Damon John, FUBU, okay. Damon John. Cross Colors and FUBU have had a relationship. Cross Colors, was one of the first street brands out there. Then comes FUBU, or Carl Canadi and FUBU. So, Damon John's another really cool dude. I've read his books. I remember he gave me one of his books. It wasn't even in the finished format. It was just a stack of papers with paper clips around it. He had his secretary send it to me so I could check it out. And I shot him back, feedback. But yeah, those three right there early on in the infancy of our agency really helped us push things along and helped us get to where we are today, definitely.
Trish, sometimes when kids graduate, I remember being in this position and a lot of our friends went different ways because of this. Sometimes you can get a job that pays the bills and puts a little bit of money in your pocket, and you think it's a lot of money at the time, but it can take you off course for what you really want to do. And the further you get along, the further you get away from your dream. Man, how important is it to be in a situation where maybe you could have to and are able to sacrifice a little bit on the front end so you can get to where you really want to be later down the road?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I think that's super important. I see it in your walk a lot. People come out of college, they've had a great college career. If they had a college that had a radio or television station and that, really want to dive right in, but those jobs just don't pay. And the crazy thing is that's kind of what happened to me. I had a job offer at a radio station in Greensboro, and it was paying next to nothing. I was fortunate to have a paid internship. And I'm like, I made more than this on my internship. So I was, kind of dangling, like weighing out options, and went a couple of months. And then I got the contact with RJ Reynolds and went that route. And I'm still kind of thinking like maybe I'll go back the radio route. But when I really got in behind the scenes and then still working with the concert promotions and things like that, I'm like, nah, this is it. This is where I want to be. And the money with RJ Reynolds was good. But it wasn't like tons of money at all. But I think that me being able to hop in with them and really gain that experience and knowledge, I met a lot of people. Hell, I ended up meeting the Roots back then.
Wow.
Yeah, and I kept the contact with their management. This is 20 plus years ago, and I started building those relationships and things kept coming full circle for me. And as I built my network, I saw my income going up. And I'm like, wow, yeah, so there's nothing wrong with starting at the bottom to get to where you want to be. Because then that's when I sat down and had a conversation with myself, like, okay, what direction are you going to go in? And I made a very conscious effort that I'm not trying to go in front of the camera. I'm not going to get on the mic. Like, that's not going to be my life. My life is going to be marketing. And then later on, it became a talent agent along with marketing and branding as well. So yeah, it was just really important to just start at a humbling place and really build up from there. I hear people coming out of college with, college degree making $25,000 a year. And I'm like, ugh, but what are you gaining with that? So very
my full-time radio job in Greensboro was $21,000 a year. And I think it took me about 4 years to get to that point. And then I made the transition to TV for less money, but
yeah,
I knew it was that lane had more potential. Now, I got behind a few cars, and at the time, it seemed like a crazy decision. But, just you've said this, but knowing which lane you want to be in is more important than how far you are in the wrong lane.
Yeah. And another thing too is don't be stupid when a lane opens up. Just because this is the lane that you've chosen for yourself, if another lane opens up, it's just like on the highway. It's like, okay, I know my exit is coming up, and I can stay right here. I'm gonna move along slow and I'm gonna get to my exit. But if that other lane opens up and you can get in that other lane and drive a little faster, you may go a slightly different route than you planned. You may be able to cut back over to that exit, or maybe your GPS will recalculate and you'll end up on a better path. And that's what happens with a lot of us. That's what happened with me. I mean, I would have never guessed in college that I would be running a talent agency. That was nowhere in my mind, in my ballpark. But when that lane opened up and Cicero and I sat down with each other and figured, we wrote down all of our skill sets. And he knew a lot of the legal aspects, and I knew the marketing aspects and some of the entertainment stuff. The entertainment stuff I didn't know he knew. It was like, hey, this makes sense. Let's start this agency. Let's go. So that lane opened up. I wasn't blind to not hop in that lane. Like, I could have just stayed doing marketing work, but I was able to combine my knowledge of marketing and do something new and become my own boss. And I wouldn't trade that for the world. So yeah, definitely figuring out which lane you want to be in. But yeah, if another opportunity comes, sit down and evaluate it and see if it makes sense for you.
Advice I've given to college students before is especially if you have the entrepreneurial spirit, you want to, form your own company. It's like, don't find your friend who's just like you.
Yeah.
Find that friend that compliments you and is good at stuff that you're not good at, but you all share a passion.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best advice ever. It's definitely evident with our agency. My partner, Cicero, and I have been close to the friends since high school. They say don't do business with friends, but we've been fortunate that it's worked out for us. I think us having worked together before we started the agency helped us out. But definitely when we sat down to figure out, like, hey, this is what we want to do, and we wrote down our strengths and our weaknesses, they definitely complemented each other. I'm more the get out, shake hands, network person, and not saying that he doesn't network, but he's more the behind the desk, crunch things out, bang it out, make it happen. And together we are like the Wonder Twins. We really make it happen. So I think it's fortunate. I look at you all, between you, Steven, and Wally, y'all couldn't be three totally different people. But it worked. It definitely works for y'all. You all have a different skill set. And I know the public may not notice it, but even before I started working with y'all, I could tell who did what. Right. I didn't know Wally's name at the time, but I knew who did what. I'm like, that's not the same person editing that doing this over here, that's doing this writing. Tyler's got the voice, and it works. I mean, definitely the best advice you could give someone when starting your own business.
And we used to try to crunch that down and be like, let's do stuff where nobody knows who did it, but that wasn't working.
It didn't work. Well, it's working now. So I'm glad that y'all changed that business model,
Yeah. So look, sometimes it's hit or miss. You got to see what works and what doesn't work, but you got to stay authentic at the end of the day.
That's for sure.
Look, I know you got a lot of things going on. Before we let you go, what advice would you give people in a little bit of challenging time now, where at least for the time being, you can't, get out and go to a mixer with 100 people and go stand in front of somebody and talk. You gotta adjust to the rules of society now with social distancing and depending on where you are, how it's going down. What would be the best advice for people who just graduated and are looking to make their mark and get started in the real world?
Well, the key word, social. You said social distancing, but the key word in that is social. We didn't have the benefits of social media. It's such a powerful tool now. And then beyond that, just the internet in general. So the book smarts are great. Hopefully they were in a position where they were able to get some hands-on experience through a co-op, internship, whatever it may be. But let's not stop the learning. Let's And then definitely if you didn't network while you're in school, get it going now. So follow companies or people that you'd like to work with, whatever industry you're in. I mean, if you're in chemistry, follow some of these chemistry companies. Everybody has social media right now. If a company doesn't have social media right now, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I'm very concerned about that company.
Right.
You know, everyone has social media, so follow that company, and then follow other companies like them, because these platforms will give you suggestions on similar companies and people. If there's people that you aspire to be like, I mean, more than likely, the young folks are already following these people. So the companies are maybe the big thing. They're probably not following these companies, but definitely follow the people. Look at their social media. Look at what they're doing. Research them on the internet. There's so much out there because people live out loud now. Look and see what did they do to get to that platform. And I like to continue to use the example of a scientist, because people say, well, of course you can look at Tali's career because he's been out in front of things. Yeah, you can look at that. But I have friends who are chemists, and I can Google them and find some cool things that they've done online. A couple of folks we went to college with who have stuff out there. So you can find almost anything out there that people have done. So definitely take this time, if you haven't already, research, connect, network. Just even if it's someone that has a lot of followers and you feel like you may not be seen, comment on their posts, relevant comments that make sense, and just keep doing it, banging it away. You know, I'm always shocked when I comment on someone's post and it's a famous person that I don't know, and they reply under my comment. It may be their intern or whatever, because I utilize that as well. But it's like, okay, at least there's some type of recognition. And then I slide into the DMs or whatever. When I was coming out of school, I literally printed off about 50 resumes, packed them up into nice yellow envelopes, printed out labels, and mailed them out to 50 different companies, at least. And I mean, I just kept doing this. I kept a floppy disk on me with my resume on me to hand to people if I ran across someone. Networking today is totally different. Utilize the internet, utilize social media, get out there, get going. And if all else fails, because the job market is crazy right now, start your own. It's tough, yeah, but get going, get some experience going, figure it out. Start with something with low overhead and really get out there and start doing your thing. If, you know, whatever it may be that you want to do. If you want to go into radio, start a podcast. If you want to go into marketing, find some small mom and pop shop that may need help with their marketing and get going there. You know, just whatever it is, just don't stop. Don't sit still. Don't let COVID-19 hinder you. Been fortunate enough that still making moves with the agency. We're making moves with you guys. We're just not letting it stop us right now. A huge brand just launched, Quibi, just launched right now. And I don't know where you're going to air this at, so I may be talking about a competitor of where you're airing it at. But, you know, I'm just thinking about them. They launched during a pandemic. We started a new branch of our agency during the pandemic. We started our sports agency. And we've signed our first client already.
Zoom that we're on right now started during the Great Recession of 2008.
I didn't even think about that. Exactly. And stock is soaring right now.
Yeah, $1 billion company easily. Yeah. A bonus question here. I've heard people say this before. And somebody gave it the title, something to the effect of side networking. So let's just say you're into media and you want to be, you know, in entertainment. So your first thought is, somehow I got to meet Tyler Perry. There was this girl who put up billboards in Georgia. Tyler Perry, you got to cast me. And I've heard the advice, you know, maybe not start right there. Maybe find somebody who's a little more parallel or closer to you and try to work your way up. And not every networking opportunity has to be, you know, the grand slam home run.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's one thing I like about social media. So let's say I follow you on social media and I'm thinking Tali is pinnacle of where I want to be. And as soon as I follow you, there's going to be a drop down of similar people to follow. And there may be a gym on there of someone that I had never heard of. I checked them out. They don't have much of a following, but they're grinding. They're doing things. And that may be that person that's more on my level. And I'm like, hey, I want to do some writing. I get with that person because, HBCU Gameday may be filled up with their partners or whatnot. So I get with this person. I start doing some writing for them. So that's exactly it right there. People come to us all the time. My email is flooded with people reaching out. They're the next big thing, and they may be. However, it's really tough for us to take someone who hasn't really done much and wants us to get them to that high level. We didn't start working with you all till you all had really started going, Aspire was getting at you and things like that. And I'm not saying we wouldn't have worked with you before then, but it just made sense. It's like these guys have paid their dues. They've made things happen. And now it's time for them to work with us, So yeah, you gotta pay your dues. So yeah, if you want to be in entertainment, keep shooting for the Tyler Perrys, but it may be the Perry Tyler that you end up doing some work with, who's just getting going like you. And that's great experience that you can gain along the way. So definitely that side networking, side hustle, whatever it may be, don't neglect them at all.
Well, there may be some aspiring Tristian Turners out there, and since you said your IG following is not blowing up, maybe somebody can follow you and get that drop down. How can they follow you on social?
Oh, all good. All my social media is the same. Tristian TLS, Tristian TLS, Talent Literary Sports. Turner Leak Stinson's another acronym for it, or the lifestyle. Tristian the lifestyle is what I like to call it. So Twitter, Instagram, I hate to admit it, I'm on Snapchat, I'm on TikTok. Got to check out what my kids are doing.
I saw one of your family dances I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. They made me. We were supposed to do another this week, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, my camera roll is full of Snapchat filter photos that my 8-year-old and my 5-year-old do, and I know nothing. Or maybe they're 9 and 6. I can't keep track of.
Whatever. But those are the ages. Yeah, my oldest will be 13 in a couple of weeks, and she's like, I'm not doing those dances until we make her. But the 7-year-old and the 9-year-old, they're definitely on it. They're definitely on, especially the 7-year-old. Yeah. She's queen. So I know exactly where you're coming from.
Hey, I'm on Facebook, the retirement home.
Hey, Facebook definitely has its advantages, and they keep buying up companies. They just bought Giphy the other day, who I was fortunate enough right before the pandemic hit. I had a couple meetings with Giphy, and dope platform that people are sleeping on. The right people are not sleeping on it, but yeah, I mean, Facebook is still making moves. So me and you chat on Facebook all the time. We talk junk about people and we laugh at each other and stuff.
Hey, our company gets a check from Facebook every month for monetized content. So say Boom. What you will.
Boom.
Twitter has never cut a check ever. So
we got to look at changing that.
Yeah, for real. Well, look, Tris, thanks a lot for spending some time. Hopefully somebody was able to gather a little bit of advice to help them along the way. And just know it'll be all right. The most uncertain time of my life was right out of college. And that first 6 months, I was like, I'm a failure. But you just find your groove. So it'll happen. It'll happen for you.
One quick thing before we go, it's interesting you say that. Those who are graduating right now, or maybe even in the fall, graduating, whatever it may be, coming out during a very troubling time with the economy being so crazy and things like that, you're going to get through it. Like you said, it's going to be all right. And if you can get through this, the rest of this stuff is going to be a cakewalk. It's definitely going to be a cake. It's not going to be just, roses and all in silk everywhere, but right now is a tough time, and if you can get through this, which you will, there's nothing that you won't be able to get through moving forward. So.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for your time, man. Great info, and make sure that you follow that guy because he is about the lifestyle. He's Tristian Turner from TLS Talent Agency. You've been listening to advice from the old dudes on HBCU Gameday.